Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. This is your Manchester United versus Young Boys preview. It's Wednesday night, 8 o'clock kick-off. It's Manchester United's final game of the Champions League group stage. It's a meaningless game for Manchester United because Manchester United have already qualified for the last 16 of the Champions League. So reflecting on that, I'm expecting Ralf Rangnick to heavily rotate for this game. Manchester United lost the reverse fixture to Young Boys 2-1. It was Jesse Lingard that cost Manchester United that game with that horrendous back pass he played in the 95th minute of stoppage time. Also, Aaron Wan-Bissaka got sent off in the reverse fixture. The manager of Young Boys is David Wagner. Before Young Boys, he managed Schalke. Before Schalke, he managed Huddersfield Town. And before then, he managed Borussia Dortmund's reserve team. Young Boys are fourth in the Swiss League. I do know some of their players. Obviously, they've got a player called Fearson Jordan Siebatcheu. They've also got a player called Felix Mambimbe. They've also got another player called Wilfred Kanga. They've also got Yannick Toure. They've got Jean Pierre and Samé. They've also got Joel Montero. They've also got a player called Fabian Lustenberger. Also got a player called Lefort as well. Young Boys have got some injuries. Manchester United do have some players missing. Obviously, Paul Pogba, he's out with a thigh injury. Pogba is out for the rest of the year. Varane is still out with a hamstring injury. Luke Shaw's still out with that concussion. Luke Shaw's missed the last 4 games. And Edinson Cavani, he's still out with injury. This game against Young Boys will be Rangnick's second game in charge of Manchester United. Rangnick won his first game in charge of Manchester United yesterday because Manchester United beat Crystal Palace 1-0. Thanks to a stunning goal from Fred late on. Ralf Rangnick is Manchester United's interim manager until the end of the season. And then after that, Rangnick will take a consultancy role for a further 2 years. Ralf Rangnick has been given a 100 million transfer budget for January. Rangnick wants Amadou Haidara as his first signing at Manchester United. Amadou Haidara has a £33 million release clause. Of course, Rangnick knows the player well because Rangnick used to manage RB Leipzig. Revert back to last week, the Manchester Evening News said that Rangnick wants a Timo Werner reunion at Man United, and there's also a couple of other players he wants. Before Manchester United, Rangnick was the head of sports and development at Lokomotiv Moscow. I think Rangnick can make Manchester United contenders this season. I have been hearing that Rangnick would be interested about getting the job on a permanent basis. And if he does do well, there's a good chance he will get the job on a permanent basis. I don't think he will though. Manchester United will get a permanent manager at the end of the season. There's been quite a few names linked with the permanent role at Man United. I still believe Mauricio Pochettino is the favourite to become Manchester United's next permanent manager. Revert back to the other week, Pochettino said he's happy at PSG and he won't let the Man United rumours distract him. But revert back to earlier on in the season, he said PSG rejected Manchester United's approach to appoint Pochettino, and reports were saying that Pochettino is interested in the Man United job, and the Manchester Evening News came out and said that Man United are confident of appointing Mauricio Pochettino as the next permanent manager. And it said Manchester United agreed to pay the 10 million compensation fee for Pochettino. Revert back to when Manchester United sacked Jose Mourinho. Man United should have got Pochettino then, but the club decided to go with Solskjaer instead. Pochettino is a good manager, even though he's hardly won anything. I think he has won a French Cup at PSG. Pochettino has got a full season left on his PSG contract. He's proven in the Premier League as well, which is beneficial because before he managed Tottenham, he endured 5.5 years at Tottenham. And in 2018, he guided Tottenham to their first ever Champions League final, and at one point, when he was Tottenham manager, he almost won the Premier League. Analysing the vast majority of his 5.5 years at Tottenham, though, Tottenham were competing in and out of the top four. And before Tottenham managed Southampton, he only enjoyed a short tenure at Southampton, but he still managed to guide Southampton to their highest ever finish in the Premier League. So they're the clubs he's managed in the Premier League so far, and before he managed Espanyol. Revert back to last week, there was reports circulating out about Roberto Mancini becoming Man United's next permanent manager. The Metro said that Manchester United consider hiring Roberto Mancini instead of Mauricio Pochettino. Roberto Mancini is in charge of Italy. He's been at Italy since 2018. He's got a contract with Italy till 2026. Revert back to last summer. Roberto Mancini won the European Championship with Italy. Around a decade ago, he managed Man City. And when he was the manager of Man City, he won the Premier League, he won the FA Cup, and he also won the Charity Shield. Erik ten Hag has also been mentioned as well. It's said earlier on this season that he was Man United's alternative target to Pochettino, so it said if United can't get Pochettino, they'll look to get Erik ten Hag, because it did say that Erik ten Hag is said to be interested in the Man United job in the summer, and Ajax will not stand in his way if he wants to leave at the end of the season. And Brendan Rodgers has also been mentioned as well. I did disregard Brendan Rodgers because revert back to earlier on in the season, Rodgers dismissed links to the Man United job, and he came out and said that I'm proud to be at Leicester. He has been contacted by Man United before. Earlier on in the season it did say that Rodgers was house hunting in Cheshire. That stirred some suggestions up, and at that point it did say he was the favourite to replace Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But Manchester United have sacked 4 permanent managers since Ferguson. You know, Manchester United sacked David Moyes after 10 months. Man United finished 7th under the Moyes era. One of the worst managers we've ever had. Then Manchester United sacked Louis van Gaal after 2 years, despite him winning the FA Cup. Then Man United sacked Jose Mourinho after around 2.5 years. Mourinho did enjoy one good season at Man United because he won 3 trophies in his first season. You know, the 3 trophies he won was the Charity Shield, the Europa League and the EFL Cup. But the reasons it didn't work out under Mourinho is because he had bad disputes with the top players. He had bad disputes with the board because the board weren't getting the players that Mourinho wanted to recommend in. And of course, a couple of weeks ago, Manchester United sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer following the 4-1 defeat to Watford. As you all know, when Solskjaer got sacked, Solskjaer gave a farewell interview. He got emotional in that farewell interview, which of course was understandable because Solskjaer adores the club and Solskjaer was part of the club for a long time. He was Manchester United manager for almost 3 years, and he enjoyed 11 years as a player for Man United, so that's almost 14 years in total. Despite Man United sacking Solskjaer a couple of weeks ago now, all United fans still adore him, and these United fans that are still chanting his name, reflecting on what he did for the club. But Man United certainly made the right decision sacking Solskjaer because, you know, he couldn't take the team any further. I don't think they really wanted to sack him, but they was left with no choice in the end. You know, Manchester United paid Solskjaer around £7.5 million to sack him, because revert back to last summer, he signed a 3-year contract with an option of a further year. Manchester United should have never give him that contract because we all knew for a long time that he was never the long-term manager for Man United. Solskjaer had no proven pedigree as a manager, did he? Obviously, the clubs he's managed in his managerial career, of course, he managed Manchester United's reserve team for a couple of years. Then obviously he managed Cardiff. His record at Cardiff was terrible. He only enjoyed a short tenure at Cardiff. He got sacked from Cardiff because he got Cardiff relegated. Then of course he enjoyed 2 spells with Mulder. Won a few Norwegian titles and that with them, but they're not a big club. And then of course he managed Manchester United's senior squad. Solskjaer did have a proven pedigree when he was a United player because he won a lot of trophies when he was a player for United. And his most iconic moment as a player was when he scored the winning goal at the Nou Camp back in 1999. You know, Solskjaer won the club the treble, and that is the club's greatest achievement. I was surprised Solskjaer lasted almost 3 years. Solskjaer did not win a trophy when he was United manager, and I said, he wasn't capable of winning trophies as a manager. Manchester United have not won a trophy since 2017. I'm hoping we can win a trophy under Ralph Rangnick. But revert back to Solskjaer, the expectations were far too high for him to exceed when he was United manager. And, revert back to when he was manager. At the start of this season, I did say, this season was always going to be big for him. The pressure was on Ollie as well, reflecting on the summer transfer window Man United had, because last summer Man United enjoyed a very good summer transfer window, made 4 signings. 3 of the 4 signings were major signings, and last summer Man United must have spent around £141 million. And revert back to last summer as well, when Solskjaer was United manager. He got very strong backing from the board. The Glazers backed him, Ed Woodward backed him. Ed Woodward, he's leaving Manchester United next year, isn't he? Well, revert back to April, it got announced that Woodward is leaving the club. That's when that European Super League came into the equation. And then earlier on in the season, it said Woodward was in talks to stay at Manchester United under a new role. Woodward's had a 16-year association with the club. John Murtaugh, our director of football, backed Ollie last summer as well, and so too did Darren Fletcher. So Solskjaer ran out of excuses. But it was a terrible last few months under Solskjaer, because obviously the results were poor, the performances were poor, and obviously the players were not playing for Ollie. Solskjaer did get appointed in as the interim manager back in December 2018. And he was the interim manager for 3 months, and he did very well as the interim manager. So reflecting on that, the club decided to give him the job on a permanent basis back in March 2019. Ollie knew though, when he'd taken over at Man United, it was going to be a massive job and a difficult job, despite him knowing the club through thick and thin, because Ollie was managing one of the biggest clubs in the world. Don't get me wrong, reflecting on the poor performances in the last few months under Ollie, not all of the blame stemmed from Ollie, but some of the blame did, because, his tactics and his team selections were questioned a lot, but there was also players that had to take responsibility as well. Manchester United spent over 400 million under Solskjaer, and Solskjaer, when he was United manager, signed around 14 players, and he also offloaded a lot of players when he was United manager as well. He loaned players out, and he got rid of a lot of players permanently. In Solskjaer's first full season, don't forget, he got us to the EFL Cup semi-final, was it? Well, he got us to 3 semi-finals in his first full season, and he got us a 3rd place finish. And in his second full season, got us to the Carabao Cup semi-final, then got us to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup, and he got us to the Europa League final. But unfortunately, he didn't win it when he was United manager. And last season got us a 2nd place finish. And when we had Solskjaer, Manchester United went 29 games unbeaten away from home in the Premier League. Solskjaer will come back to Manchester United at some point. I don't know when, but obviously when the club officially sacked him, it did mention on the statement he's welcome back at any time. Next year, Manchester United are going to offload players. I definitely think Anthony Martial is leaving the club next year. Martial doesn't get in the team, does he? Surprisingly though, Martial started on the left-hand side against Villarreal. Martial was out with injury earlier on this season as well. He's no longer good enough to represent the club. Martial has only enjoyed 1 good season, I think, at Man United, and that was his debut season under Van Gaal. He has been at Manchester United for around 6.5 years. He's got 3 years left on his contract, Martial. Man United got Martial in a deal worth around 58 million from Monaco back in 2015. Cavani, he's another one who I think's leaving the club next year. I'm hearing that Cavani's interested in making a move to Barcelona. Can't say I want Cavani to leave with the impact he's made since he's come in. But he initially lost his place in the team with the club re-signing Ronaldo last summer. Like I said earlier on, Cavani's still out with injury at the moment. He had an injury earlier on this season. Cavani's got under a year left on his contract. Revert back to May. Cavani signed that 1-year contract extension. Man United got Cavani on a free transfer from PSG. You know, this season is Cavani's second full season at Man United. Jesse Lingard, I think he's leaving next year. I heard that Newcastle want Jesse Lingard. Revert back to earlier on in the season, it said West Ham want to re-sign Lingard. Well, at the second half of last season, Lingard endured a 4-month loan spell with West Ham and he made an impact. And I heard as well earlier on in the season that Lingard wants to go abroad. Revert back to the other week, BBC Sport reported that Jesse Lingard's future at Man United is in doubt after talks over a new contract collapsed. His contract at Man United expires next summer. Be better for him to go in January, at least we can cash in for him, rather than let him go on a free next summer. We'll probably get around 10 million for him in January. Lingard's been part of the club for a long time, hasn't he? Risen up our academy and that. He's had his good periods at Man United, he's had his bad periods. I think Lingard's only started one game this season, that was West Ham in the Carabao Cup. Juan Mata, I think there's a good chance that he'll leave as well next year. Mata doesn't get in the team, does he? He could possibly be in contention to play against Young Boys on Wednesday. Mata's lost that yard of pace in his age. You know, Mata's contract at Man United expires next summer. Revert back to earlier on in the year. Mata signed a 1-year contract extension. He's been at Manchester United for 7.5 years now, so he's been a long-serving player. Man United got Juan Mata from Chelsea back in 2014 for 40 million. So we brought him in under the David Moyes era. And Van der Beek, I think there's a good chance he'll leave in January, unless Van der Beek gets the opportunities he's been demanding under Ralf Rangnick. Because revert back to when we had Solskjaer, you know, Van der Beek was not getting enough opportunities, and reflecting on that, Van der Beek was frustrated. Van der Beek didn't start against Palace recently, but he did come on in the game. Van der Beek didn't start against Arsenal, but came on in the game. Didn't start against Chelsea, but came on in the game. So he very rarely starts games. You know, Van der Beek's only scored 2 goals for the club, and he's been at Manchester United for over a year and a half now. You know, Man United got him for 40 million with add-ons included. He's got a contract with Man United till 2025. There's an option of a further year, and he's versatile. He can play in 3 different roles. Matic, I think there's a good chance he'll leave next year as well. Matic isn't one of Man United's first choice midfielders, but despite that, he still seems to get his chances. Matic just come back from a hamstring injury not so long ago. Surprisingly enough, Matic has been ahead of Van der Beek in our midfield. As far as I'm aware, I think Matic is the only predominant centre defensive mid that Man United have got. Man United certainly need a centre defensive mid in January. Matic has been at Manchester United for 4.5 years. Man United got Matic from Chelsea back in 2017 for 40 million. And Paul Pogba, Man United could be selling him next year as well. I definitely think Phil Jones and Bailly are leaving next year. Dean Henderson has said that he wants a loan move away from Man United. Henderson doesn't get in goal now, does he? Because revert back to last summer, De Gea reclaimed that number 1 spot back. Henderson's only been in goal for 1 game so far this season. That was West Ham in the Cup. Henderson could be in contention though to be in goal for the game against Young Boys. Well, I think he will be in goal for the game against Young Boys. Unless we went with Tom Heaton, but it won't be Tom Heaton, it'll be Dean Henderson. Revert back to earlier on this season, Dean Henderson was out with COVID for a while. You know, do you think Tellez and Dalot could leave the club next year? Because they've only been playing recently because Bissaka had a hand injury, and of course Luke Shaw's been out with a head injury. Tellez is certainly undroppable at the moment because he's done really well recently. And Dalot's done well as well in his last 2 games, to his credit. Anyway, guys, that's everything to update you with. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again very, very soon.